Hello and welcome to Calls. This is the May 7th MLB DraftKings lineup card. 8 games on the docket tonight. Looking forward to it. There is one game with rain in the forecast. It happens to be Kansas City and Baltimore, which was also postponed from last night. So hopefully we get the full 8 games, but just to be honest, there is not going to be a lot to be missed if that game is postponed. Not a lot to like there. But we're here to cover every single game with fewer games than there were last night. Hopefully we can get into a bit more detail on some of these players. So let's get right into it. All statistics provided today are from baseballreference.com. However you want to see a statistic broken out in however many ways and which way that way, if you want to see a player's particular stats at a stadium over his career, any historical season or player, even umpire statistics, it is all covered in Baseball Reference. It's an amazing tool. Go check them out. You won't regret it. In the descriptions of all 3 videos to the streaming services, there are links to my social media. This is where I place my betting cards for golf during the week and any interesting research that I find for golf. And then I'm going to start putting some kind of questions or ideas out there for the MLB content. Perhaps a player to look at, or maybe some interesting unknown information about a particular player that you might want to think about putting in a lineup for the evening, things like that. So give me a follow to the links in the social media. And then finally, we are live. Chat's open. I want to hear from you all. Did you watch yesterday? What did you think? What improvements do you recommend to the show? What are you looking at for tonight's games? Any particular pitcher or a stack that you're looking at? Anything around that? And then also it's Kentucky Derby Day, so if you want to throw in some Kentucky Derby, I will be here for that as well. So let's get into it. Let's cover the lineup card for today, May the 7th. And the first game that we look at is the aforementioned Kansas City and Baltimore. So we will head to Camden Yards. And again, with the rain in the forecast, you have to take to put these players in a bit of a cautionary space in your lineups. Be ready to kind of come off of these players if you're trying to play some of them. If you watched yesterday's show, you know that I had ordered some of the players, or at least all of the players, in lineups by their price. I went ahead and changed it up a little bit today. This is by positional order. If you're going left to right across DraftKings, pitcher and then catcher, first base, and so on. So this isn't a pure rankings in the sense of who I like the best and whatnot. This is just by position, but the top of the list, if I like a catcher, should be there. The bottom will be the outfielders, and everywhere in between the regular, or the infield, I should say. Let's see, make sure chat is up. And again, if I look over here to the right, I have a spreadsheet up that brings in a lot of the statistics from Baseball Reference. That's how I am able to tell you some of the stats. So don't mind me if I'm looking over here. I'm trying to give you the most accurate information as I can. If you want to see a little bit of what I look at, I show it at the beginning of the video or the show yesterday. But we start with Kansas City and Baltimore. And nothing has changed in terms of the players, or at least the pitchers, here today. With the game postponed last night, they're just going to run back the same pitchers that were expected starters last night. So it's Carlos Hernandez for Kansas City, and it is Jordan Lyles for Baltimore. I don't like either of these plays, especially in the pitching side. there's not a lot to like in the lineups for either team either. I did add one player on Baltimore who is worth at least a little bit of a look if you're trying to get some salary relief. I don't recommend it, but he's not the worst if you want to save some salary. So let's cover Kansas City first. Salvador Perez, about the best hitting catcher. Although he is off to a fairly slow start this year, hitting 167, he still has the power. So any offensive output that you can get from a catcher is going to be welcome. There's a reason he is 5,100. I believe he is the second highest priced catcher today. But again, there's not a lot here. So if you're willing to splurge or have money to splurge on a catcher, by all means. He is 2 for 8 against Jordan Lyles. Both of those 2 hits are home runs. So there is a little bit of a success factor here between hitter and pitcher. I think there are quite a bit of other values at catcher today, so I'm not going to recommend it, but I understand if you want to go with Salvador Perez. The other 2 players on Kansas City are quite speculative depending on where they are in the batting order. Whit Merrifield at 4,400. He only has second base eligibility today. If he is hitting at the top of the lineup, I like that price a lot better than where he was projected, or at least when the lineup came out for Kansas City before the game was postponed. If he's hitting 5th, I don't like that much at all. I do not expect Kansas City to score a lot of runs. Therefore, if he does get on base, he's going to have to provide a lot of the value himself, either by stealing bases or hitting a home run himself, which he's not a power hitter. So if he's leading off, I can get more on board with that. He's hitting, in front of Benintendi, in front of Salvador Perez, maybe even a little bit of Bobby Witt or the new cleanup hitter they have, I believe was Hunter Dozier last night. But if he's at the top of the lineup, again, more plate appearances, better chance to score. You're trying to bank on him getting on base, maybe stealing a base, but he's only hitting 151 so far this year. So 4,400 is quite expensive. I would much prefer to go with Salvador Perez over a Whit Merrifield if you're going anywhere around the Kansas City lineup. And then finally, kind of similar to Whit Merrifield, Nicky Lopez, I mentioned him yesterday. He is a bit cheaper than he was last night, $200 less. But again, it's all about the place in the lineup. He was the leadoff hitter for a little bit, provided quite a bit of value up there at the top of the lineup. He is still hitting fairly well. He is down to 225, but he gets on base. It's an empty 225. He doesn't get a lot of extra base hits. You're banking on the patience of Nicky Lopez, kind of like you are banking on Whit Merrifield getting on base to get driven in by Benintendi and Salvador Perez. These 2 players are speculative depending on where they are in the order. So not a lot to like here with Kansas City. And Jordan Lyles, pitcher, don't like him much at all. The Royals actually have some fairly decent numbers in their career against Jordan Lyles. So no thank you there. And then for Baltimore, I had Austin Hayes yesterday. He's a decent enough value play here for Baltimore. Generally hits in the upper third of the lineup, sometimes 4th if they move him around a little bit. But Austin Hayes, he's hitting 280. He's got 3 homers, 7 doubles. He can provide you a little bit of pop. He's only 1 for 2 against Hernandez, so very small sample there. And then I added Jorge Mateo. And Mateo generally has hit 8th or 9th for the Orioles, so you don't like that. But he has 7 stolen bases so far this season. So it is quite a bit of putting all your eggs in one basket. But Mateo can accrue his value, his price in a stolen base. The issue is going to get on base. He is hitting 241, so it's not terrible, but he doesn't draw a lot of walks. He's pretty free swinging, 27 strikeouts. You don't like the strikeout to walk ratio. All of his value is predicated on getting on base and perhaps getting a stolen base for those 5 points. Again, I don't recommend the play, but if you are looking for some salary relief, especially at a position that doesn't have a lot in terms of home run plays today, you can take a look at Jorge Mateo. I don't hate it. So that is a look at Kansas City and Baltimore. Let's move on to San Francisco, which is an afternoon game out there, but is part of the evening slate on DraftKings. And it's a very, very good pitching matchup. You've got Steven Matz, 3-1, an ERA pretty high, but he has been pitching pretty darn well. He's got more strikeouts, or he's averaging a little bit more than one strikeout per inning. You like that a lot. He's getting run support, so there's a very good chance for a win and those points there. A lot to like here with Steven Matz. And then Logan Webb, last year's breakout starting pitcher, probably of the year. He's 3-1. He's pitched a little bit better, at least in terms of ERA, to Steven Matz. He has thrown 30 innings. So you like the innings pitched there in 5 outings. So it's a little bit more than 6 per outing. The whip respectable at 1.3. Now he is not a strikeout pitcher, so he's going to have to limit the hits, limit the walks, which he has done so far. But you really want the upside of strikeout pitchers, and Logan Webb definitely has a cap on that. He is not a strikeout pitcher. So seeing the price, $1,300 more than Steven Matz, and knowing that he is not a strikeout pitcher, I'm leaning towards Steven Matz in this game in the 2 pitchers, and I actually think Steven Matz is fairly intriguing today. But let's go through the lineups here. Let's cover St. Louis first. 2 pretty obvious plays. I don't love either one because of the price, but Paul Goldschmidt, Tommy Edman have been 1-2 in the batting order, I think, all season for St. Louis. Tommy Edman, a whole lot of value on a good offensive St. Louis team. Edman's hitting .322, 5 steals, 8 extra base hits. He's gotten a fair share of RBIs as well, hitting at the top of the lineup. This offense is really darn good. There's a reason he's 5,200, especially at a usually weak second base position that for offense. If you're willing to splurge or pay the premium for Tommy Edman, I would much prefer somebody like Edman than I would to Salvador Perez, all things being equal, just due to the offense that he's in, the number of plate appearances that he's going to get, or at least expected to get, being at the top of the lineup. I like Tommy Edman more than Salvador Perez at essentially the same price. And then Paul Goldschmidt, now while he has had the power outage so far this season with only 2 homers and 4 doubles, he is 2 for 4 against Logan Webb. Again, small sample, but 2 for 4. And the big draw with Paul Goldschmidt, with all his years in Arizona, he's a career .323 hitter with 13 homers. So he knows the ballpark. He has generally succeeded here at the ballpark. I like Goldschmidt. There are quite a few first base values or plays that I'm going to use in front of, or more so than Paul Goldschmidt, but I can see the narrative, and I think he has some pretty good standalone value. It's going to be tough to stack Goldschmidt and Edman. If you're able to do it, congratulations. I don't know how what kind of lineup you're going to have around them. I would imagine you'd have to sacrifice quite a bit. So I don't recommend that. But Goldschmidt has some pretty good standalone value, as does Tommy Edman. So between these two, honestly, I think I might go Tommy Edman just because of the offensive scarcity generally of second baseman. But Paul Goldschmidt's a fine enough play as well. And then let's cover San Francisco. All of these are pretty darn speculative, really. Steven Matz, a left-handed pitcher. So 2 of the 3 plays here hit right-handed. And then Brandon Crawford at shortstop. Yes, it's 4,100, and Crawford hits left-handed. But he is 3 for 6 lifetime against Steven Matz. So you like that. I'm not sure if I like paying 4,100 for that. But Crawford has been one of the Giants' better hitters so far this season. I mean, this offense is pretty anemic, especially when they lost Brandon Belt. Crawford, 7 extra base hits, 10 RBIs. He has a decent enough on-base percentage, so he draws his walks. He gets hit by pitches a fair enough amount. So at 4,100, if you're looking for a mid-price shortstop, don't hate Brandon Crawford, but I certainly don't love the play either. And this is why I'm so high on Steven Matz. The rest of the team that has faced Steven Matz just don't have good numbers. And Steven Matz has a decent amount of strikeouts against the hitters for San Francisco. So I like where Steven Matz is sitting price-wise, his matchup today. The 2 hitters that I mentioned were speculative for San Francisco. Again, they're all predicated on being right-handed. Estrada for the Giants, right-handed hitting second baseman. He's had a decent start to the year. He's hitting 240, does have 7 extra base hits, leads the Giants in RBIs. He generally hits 5th or 6th. He won't really get his walks per se. He does have 3 stolen bases, so he can provide you some capability of a stolen base here and there. So again, it's not that I recommend it, but I don't hate it if you're not sold on another second baseman or you don't have the money to go up to a Tommy Edman. I don't hate it, but not in love with it either. And then Austin Slater is actually a decent little value here for the Giants. 2,900 in the outfield. He is 2 for 8 against Steven Matz. Now, both of those being singles. But Slater usually hits leadoff for the Giants, so you get the plate appearances. He's got a couple of steals. He's hitting 256. Does have a couple homers. 2,900 seems like a decent value for Austin Slater if you're looking to save there and spend up on a Tommy Edman or a pitcher. So take a look at Slater if you need some salary relief. I think that'd be a decent play. So that is game 2 on the docket. Let's move to Atlanta. We've got Milwaukee at Atlanta, and this is a fantastic pitching matchup. I can't wait to see this. Corbin Burns, only 1-1, but a 1.93 ERA, big strikeout pitcher, 33 innings, 43 strikeouts. I mean, that ratio is elite in Major League Baseball. Only 7 walks. His whip is below 1, so a lot to like here. And then Max Fried, 3-2. He's pitched extremely well, 8,900. He's got a 3 ERA. He's only got 1 walk so far on the season, 27 strikeouts on the 30 innings, so not quite a strikeout per inning. But it's the fact that he has a decent strikeout rate with the fact that his whip is also under 1. This is going to be a fantastic pitching matchup. But I'm actually a little higher on Max Fried than I am Corbin Burns. A lot of that being predicated on the price at 8,900. And also, a lot of the hitters for Milwaukee, or at least their prime hitters, they hit left-handed. Rowdy Tellez, Christian Yelich, Colton Wong at the top of the lineup, Omar Narvaez, if he plays. A lot of their hitters are left-handed. So I like the matchup there for Max Fried. But let's get into the individual lineups here, and you see just how little I've highlighted here for both lineups. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. I don't think you can go wrong with taking either pitcher, although I'm leaning towards Max Fried, or I guess I should say that way. Leaning that way to Max Fried. I've highlighted 2 players here, both of them right-handed against Max Fried for Milwaukee. It's Luis Urias. Has never faced Max Fried, but he is off to a very good start, coming off the injury list to start the season. 4 for 13, a homer. He's already got 5 runs scored, so he'll draw his walk. So, I mean, that's a pretty good projection on having a decent game against Max Fried, if you want to believe in that. I mean, in the small sample size of Urias, he's averaged 2.4 points per plate appearance. You really like that. That's a lot to go on on a player that hasn't played a lot this season and has never faced the pitcher, but he has been coming out the gates hot, coming off the IL. And then Willie Adames is actually one player that has some pretty good numbers against Max Fried, the right-handed hitting shortstop for Milwaukee. So if you're not sold on Max Fried, take a look at Willie Adames. Yes, he's $5,000. It's going to be a very high price to pay. But Willie Adames hitting .235, but it's the fact that he's already got 12 extra base hits. He'll steal you a base every once in a while. He's drawn 16 walks, quite a bit to start the season. And Willie Adames has faced Max Fried three times. He has a hit. It is an extra base hit and a double. So there's a little bit to go on there, but mainly it is the fact of a righty hitter versus a lefty pitcher. One of the big reasons why I'm high on Max Fried, other than the lefty versus a left-handed primary lineup, Christian Yelich, 3 for 11, so decent, but all three of those are singles. Max Fried struck him out 3 times. Not the biggest biggest of games for Yelich. He's averaged exactly 1 point per plate appearance against Max Fried in his career. You've got Hunter Renfroe, right-handed power bat. You think this would be a decent matchup for him. He's 0 for 6 against Max Fried. Andrew McCutchen, 2 for 15 in his career against Max Fried. 6 strikeouts. Lorenzo Cain, another right-handed hitter. He's 0 for 4. He has drawn a couple walks, but not a lot of great numbers here for the Milwaukee players. So this is why I'm really high on Max Fried, 8,900. Steven Matz, 8,300. I think there's decent enough value in the mid-range tier of pricing that you don't have to feel like you have to go after a Corbin Burns. I think there is a lot of value to be gained elsewhere in the price board for the pitchers, and you can really try to squeeze in 2 or 3 premier offensive players. So that's my look at the Milwaukee versus Max Fried. And then the other side against Corbin Burns, there's a couple of players here that have had good numbers. Most of them have not had good numbers against Corbin Burns. Like the majority of Major League Baseball, he's quickly become one of the, I would say, top 10 pitchers in Major League Baseball. But Ozzie Albies, 2 for 4 against Burns in his career. You know about Albies, 6 home runs from a second base position that we've talked about already is offensive scarce. 4 doubles included, steals you bases. Albies is decent value at 4,700. A little bit less than Tommy Edman, but also a bit more boom bust. But the player I really want to highlight for y'all is Dansby Swanson. Dansby Swanson at 3,100 is career 4 for 5 against Corbin Burns, 2 of those being homers. Whatever it is, Dansby Swanson has, in a small sample, fared very well against Corbin Burns. So at 3,100, that is some speculation I'm willing to gamble on. It is a discount, really, on a lot of the shortstops. Now, the issue with Swanson is he's generally hitting at the bottom of the order, so he'll get 4 plate appearances at most. Against Corbin Burns, he might only get 3, so he really has to make those count. That is an issue. But if he does get on base, he can steal you a couple of bases. He's got 10 extra base hits already in this season. He has been driven in 12 times. He's got 10 RBIs, so a complete hitter. He is only hitting .226, so it's not fantastic in the batting average department. But the slugging's there. If he gets on base, he can steal you a base. There's a lot to like here with Dansby Swanson, a lot of it predicated on him being 4 for 5 against Corbin Burns. So I like that value a lot at the shortstop position. So we're already quickly through 3 games here. If you have a question on a particular player, or you want to dig in a little bit more and want to know his performance at the ballpark he's playing, jump in chat. Let me know. I've got Baseball Reference up. I've got DraftKings up if you want to try to go through a lineup or whatnot. If you are just now catching my material. I appreciate you tuning in. I generally try to keep these shows at about an hour, give or take a few minutes here and there. And with the fewer amount of games, I could be getting through this fairly quickly. So would love the participation in chat. Let's move to game 4 on the docket. And this is where, for the first time this season, I have to admit my bias. I am a Chicago Cubs fan. So let's move to Wrigley. I am a Chicago Cubs fan, so it will be fairly obvious throughout the season. Now, the issue, or I'll say issue, it's a decent thing. I can be objective, but this is just full transparency. I am a Cubs fan, so throughout the year, we can have some fun with it. Jump in chat and give me whatever hell that you want to give. It's worth it. We'll have some fun with it, have some banter. But let's get into the game. Tyler Anderson is throwing the nightcap for the Dodgers. They have a doubleheader today with last night's game being postponed. So I checked the MLB kind of game day cast online. It says that the wind is blowing in quite heavily straight in from center field. So with that being the case, some of these players that I've highlighted here will honestly drop off because I was not aware of the wind when I made these presentations for you. So Tyler Anderson's actually going to get a little bit of a bump knowing that the wind's blowing in. Left-handed pitcher has started off very well this season, 2-0, sub-3 ERA. The whip is fantastic. Now the issue is he's not really a strikeout pitcher. He's a fly ball pitcher, which is why I had some of these names over here on the right for the Cubs lineup if the wind was indeed blowing out. So some of these names need to come off. But there is a decent amount of upside here with Tyler Anderson. The Cubs offense has just been fairly anemic lately. They have power hitters, but if they're not getting on base, they're not going to score a lot of runs. So I think there's a decent amount of viability here for Tyler Anderson. I really do. Let's go into the lineup for the Dodgers. And it's generally pretty difficult to do some lineup projections when the opposite team is doing an opener. Can't get the words out. So I think the way I'm going to go through the rest of this season, unless there is a really good suggestion from chat or whatnot, I think I'm just going to list the 2 players or 2 pitchers that DraftKings lists. And if I know otherwise, if MLB.com has a different projection or whatnot, I'll note it or whatever. But the Cubs are going to open, it looks like, with Daniel Norris, and then bring in Keegan Thompson for long relief. So what I've done here to give an idea of performance for Dodgers hitters, I've just combined their performance against these 2 pitchers. So, for example, Freddie Freeman, he is 2 for 6 in his career against these 2 pitchers for the Cubs. A double and a homer. Was also drawn a couple walks. There's a lot to like here. Norris being left-handed, Keegan Thompson being right-handed. You would think that Freeman would much prefer the long relief, but he's put up some decent numbers against Daniel Norris. So just a quick reminder again from what I said, I have combined the 2 pitchers' stats for each hitter. So when I say 2 for 6 for Freddie Freeman, that's combined against Daniel Norris and Keegan Thompson. But quite a bit to like here with Freddie Freeman. Premier player in Major League Baseball. You're going to pay it at a premium offensive position at first base. So with the wind blowing in, maybe it hurts Freeman's value a little bit, but he is not a traditional boom or bust power hitter. He will take his hits, take his doubles, draws walks. He's actually even stolen 2 bases. He was never much of a stolen base threat in Atlanta. He's stolen 2 bases already this year, so a lot of value represented in Freddie Freeman. If you're looking for some more price saving, If you're looking at a Jorge Mateo or an Austin Slater, take a look at Hanser Alberto at 2,100. Now, this is predicated on that he is in the lineup, being 3.5 hours ahead of game time. I don't know yet. Maybe at the end of the show, some lineups come out. But at 2,100, Hanser Alberto is 2 for 5 in his career against these two pitchers, all of that being Daniel Norris. Daniel Norris having pitched for the Tigers in the past. That's where Alberto's exposure to Daniel Norris been from. Alberto, a former Baltimore Oriole. But he's 2 for 5 with a double. And Alberto's played okay so far in very limited capacity. He generally plays against left-handed pitchers, so I would imagine Dave Roberts might have him in the starting lineup. Hopefully gets an at-bat with him, and then I can see him either pulling him or letting him have a couple at bats and then pulling him. I'd be surprised if Alberto finished the game if he does start. But Alberto's hitting 286. Only one double, but again, it's only 21 plate appearances. So, it represents potential, is what I'll say. It represents a decent amount of potential. And at 2,100, that's what you're looking for. The rest of these are probably pretty self-explanatory. Mookie Betts against both of these pitchers. 4 for 10 lifetime, 2 doubles, 2 walks. You like that. And then, hitting second, sometimes even lead off for this loaded Dodger team. He's averaging 1.8 points per plate appearance. What's there to say? I mean, he hasn't had the major extra base hit output yet. He does have 4 homers, only 2 doubles. He's drawn 13 walks, stolen bases. All-around player, you're paying for it. 5,900, the second highest hitter on the price board behind Mike Trout. But well worth it if you are able to spend up and get him. This is one of the reasons why you would take a Jorge Mateo, a Hanser Alberto, to buy up and try to get premier players like this. Perhaps stack Mookie Betts with a Freddie Freeman and take some speculation with Alberto. That's a stack that I wouldn't mind if you can make it fit. And then the other two, Chris Taylor, Cody Bellinger, both of them very limited plate appearances against these two pitchers, but good enough numbers. Chris Taylor 2 for 4, Bellinger 1 for 2 with a homer. Now, Bellinger's had a fairly slow start to the season, 205, but a lot of that being extra base hits. He's got 17 hits, 10 of them being extra base hits. So you're banking on getting a double, getting a homer, having him drive in some runs, which he hasn't done a lot of yet this season. So more of a bit of a speculation play against Keegan Thompson, the right-handed long reliever. Now, Chris Taylor, on the other hand, has had a really good start to the year, hitting 292. He's got 8 extra base hits, 2 steals, fair enough amount of walks. Again, just a loaded offense. So definitely going to highlight the first 4. Bellinger probably not as much of a play now that I know the wind is blowing in. And then let's move to the Cubs side of the lineup. I added Contreras, Wisdom, and Ian Happ all on the idea that they hit right-handed against Tyler Anderson and could be viable if the wind's blowing out. I'm definitely going to drop Wisdom and Ian Happ from this list. The reason I'm keeping Wilson Contreras, he is 4 for 19, so he has a lot of exposure to Tyler Anderson. He does have a double. He's taken 3 walks from Tyler Anderson, so it's not nothing here for Wilson Contreras, but I think there are better catching options in the late night games. And if you're coming up 4,300 for Contreras, I would really recommend that you really try to find the price for Salvador Perez if you're wanting to come up this high. But I think I have a couple of values later on in the show at the catching position. So wanted to keep a mention of Wilson Contreras. I'd keep him on there. Seiya Suzuki, he's really slowed down after that torrid start He is down to hitting, let's see, 250. Still has the walks, still the slugging, but he has slowed down quite a bit. Again, right-handed hitter against the lefty Tyler Anderson. Patient enough hitter. Anderson, generally not a wild pitcher, only 4 walks, so it would be an interesting matchup to see Suzuki against Anderson for the first time. But I want to highlight Jonathan Villar for you all. Villar in his career against Tyler Anderson, 3 for 8 with a double and a homer. Now he has struck out 4 times against Villar, so it's all or nothing. And Villar has played okay this season when he's been in the lineup, hitting 283. A lot of that being singles, so it's an empty 283. He has 1 stolen base, but he's most known for stolen bases, so he hasn't been running or he's been caught stealing more than usual. But he does average 1.5 points per plate appearance, and at second base and shortstop, particularly shortstop, if you're looking for a mid-range price, I don't hate the play, but Dansby Swanson I much prefer over Jonathan Villar. But if you are afraid of going up against Corbin Burns and you're looking for a bit more of a mid-tier option, you don't have the money for a Willy Adames, players of that ilk, I don't hate Villar, granted that he's in the lineup. So take a look there. We are halfway through. Game 5 on the docket is Colorado and Arizona, and prepare yourselves. I love this game from a hitting standpoint. You will see exactly why. So we are in the desert, and you see all the players there on the right for Arizona. Now do note that you are only allowed to put 5 players from a team into a lineup. You cannot stack an entire team. If you could, I'd be all over Arizona today. I still am. I'm going to try to fit in at least 4 of these guys. And the reason being, Kyle Freeland, while not, a scrub of a pitcher, I mean, yes, he is off to a poor start this season, 1-3, almost a 5 ERA, more hits than innings pitched, so his whip's above 1.5. He has struggled, but the numbers these players have put up against Kyle Freeland, these players for Arizona, that is, are absurd. I'll just go down the list here. Carson Kelly, one of the best catching plays that I'll have today. He is 4 for 12, 2 homers, 3 walks, 2.5 points per plate appearance against Kyle Freeland in his career. Christian Walker, 5 for 20, a double and a homer. He is averaging 1.85 points per plate appearance against Kyle Freeland in his career. Ketel Marte, one of my favorite plays today. A really good mid-tier option at second base. He's hitting 345 in his career against Kyle Freeland. 10 for 29, 4 doubles, a homer, 5 walks. A lot to like here with Ketel Marte. He is probably going to be my biggest lock in the lineups. Which, speaking of locks, this is where we get to have a little bit of fun. I was pretty darn successful with the Luis Robert call last night. He was one of my locks. Hit a homer, 2 RBIs. I also locked Marcell Ozuna. He didn't do anything. I liked Logan Gilbert, pitcher from Seattle. He had a bad game, so I had some good suggestions or calls. I had some bad ones, but Ketel Marte is going to be a lock for me today. And then shortstop, Nick Ahmed. Same way, he's 8 for 30, so he's hitting 267, 4 doubles, 2 homers in his career against Kyle Freeland, and you get him at 3,500. So between Dansby Swanson and Nick Ahmed, those 2 shortstop plays is where I am going most often in the shortstop position today. Nick Ahmed against the lesser pitcher of Kyle Freeland and the righty-lefty matchup. It's a good option. I think Dansby Swanson's underrated, so I don't mind using Dansby Swanson. But if you're looking for, again, another mid-tier option and you're scared of going against Corbin Burns, take a long look at Nick Ahmed. And then two outfielders here, both of them, surprisingly, that hit left-handed, they have fantastic numbers against Kyle Freeland as well. Dalton Varsho, he's only 2 for 5, but one of them being a homer. So again, some more fantastic success in a small sample. It's a shame he only has outfield eligibility today, but Carson Kelly is a good matchup. Hoping he is in the lineup today. But Varsho 2 for 5. He's hitting 244 so far in the season. He does have 12 walks, 9 extra base hits. Generally hits in the upper third of the lineup. Really like Varsho. And then David Peralta, left-handed hitting outfielder for Arizona. He hit a home run last night. I said he might be a potential play against Chad Kuhl. In his career against Kyle Freeland, 6 for 17, hits 353 against him. Not so much in the extra base hits department. He has 1 double, 1 homer, but he has success against Kyle Freeland. So at 3,800, he represents a lot of value as well. So you can see I'm going to try to fit in as many Arizona players as I can. I told you I locked Marte. I really have no issue using Ahmed. I'm between him and Swanson. Carson Kelly's one of the best catcher value plays today, I think. Peralta represents value, so a lot to like here with Arizona. And before I go on to Colorado, that tells you that I'm nowhere near Kyle Freeland today. Hopefully that is understood. And then on the other side, Zach Davies, I'm not really interested in. Another one of these pitch to contact type guys, and he's pretty wild for being that. He's averaging about a walk every 2 innings. The whip is fairly high for a guy that doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. Hasn't thrown many innings either. He's averaged less than 5 innings per start. So I don't have a lot of interest in Zach Davies. But the Rockies players, Davies has got either very good numbers or very poor numbers against these players. So I've highlighted 3 players that have fantastic numbers against Zach Davies. If you are wanting to use a premier catcher, don't want to bother with Salvador Perez, or he's not in the lineup, and hopefully Elias Diaz is. Diaz's numbers against Zach Davies really good. 5 for 14, which is a 357 average. All of that on singles except for 1 home run. So on a day and position that is generally scarce at the catching position, Diaz is worth a long look. I definitely like Carson Kelly more just because of the stack that I'm trying to get with Arizona. I think Arizona puts up a lot of runs in this game, which means they're going to get shut out because that's the way things work here. But I don't mind Elias Diaz. CJ Cron just quickly becoming one of the premier fantasy hitters in baseball. He is hitting 310, 9 homers already this season, to add 7 doubles. There's a lot to like here. CJ Cron, 5,500. He's usually not a bad play. And then Sam Hilliard, another option for value at the outfield position. He is 2 for 6 in his career against Davies, a double and a homer. He is off to a very slow start to the year, only hitting 182. The on base is there. He's drawn 9 walks, on base of 320. So it's not nothing. He did steal a base last night, so he has the capability to run. It's more so the fact that you're thinking that the extra base hits against Davies in a small sample continue on. So there is a look at Colorado and Arizona. I love this game, especially from Arizona's side, but there's a couple of Rockies players that I like too. So I am staying far away from this game in regards to pitching. 6th game on the docket, we move to Petco, Miami and San Diego, and one of the other good calls that I had last night, I was really high on Yu Darvish. He had a fantastic game, but not for the reason I thought. I was really high on him for the strikeout potential. He had 3 strikeouts, but went 7 shutout innings. So either way, he got his points. So I'm going to count that as a win because they don't come often. But Miami and San Diego today. And you'll see that I only have one player highlighted for each team hitting-wise. And that's not to say that I don't like the hitters here. It's that I don't have a good gauge on this game. Pablo Lopez, 3-1. Sterling ERA, 30 strikeouts to 6 walks. I mean, he's got more strikeouts than innings pitched. But he got lit up his last time out. So, and you're coming to a Petco Park, which generally is pitcher friendly, but it has become a lot more hitter friendly over the years. And I mean, you got Machado, you have Austin Nola, a pretty darn good hitting catcher, Trent Grisham, who I've highlighted here for San Diego. Grisham is one of the few players that has faced Pablo Lopez. He's 1 for 3, generally hits leadoff for the Padres. Let's see. Very, very slow start average-wise, but he has 13 hits on the year, 5 of those being extra base hits. So a lot to like there in that department. He's got 15 walks as well. So if he gets on base, he can get driven in by Manny Machado, who, you know, obvious play if you want to play him. I didn't highlight him because he's never faced Pablo Lopez, but I mean, Machado, 382 batting average already, 7 homers, 7 doubles, and he's just it's Manny Machado. Him and Nolan Arenado are the 2 NL MVPs in my mind, first month of the year. Yeah, see, Pablo Lopez, good pitcher. I don't know how to feel about the Padres lineup against him. You know, Hosmer, Cronenworth, Profar, all these left-handed and switch-hitting players, they've never faced him. They've never faced Pablo Lopez. So, you know, you got to go on some speculation here. And a lot being the same for Sean Manaea against the Marlins. Now, the one player that has had a good amount of success against Manaea is Jorge Soler, who I've highlighted. Interesting that both of these players are at 3,900. So Jorge Soler is 2 for 3 against Manaea, one of those being a homer. And Soler has the power capability here. He has drawn 14 walks, so teams have been pitching around him a little bit. But it's the righty hitting Soler against the lefty throwing Manaea that's appealing in that regard. Manaea, good on his own right, 2-2. 30 strikeouts in 30 innings. You like that ratio. A little bit more wild than you would like. 11 walks in those 30 innings, but the whip is still only 1.07. Both of these pitchers average about 18.5 per outing, 18.5 points, so that's pretty strong. That's why I don't have a lot highlighted here in terms of hitters. I just don't have a good feeling on this game one way or the other, and I could see this being a lot like Atlanta and Milwaukee and being a pitcher's duel. So with all that being said, I think I'm going to stay away from this game. I think there's enough value other places, especially in the outfield, for me not to have to take these 2 players. You know, if I have quite a bit of money to spare, I might try to sneak in a Manny Machado, Jazz Chisholm. I would be okay, I would think, but otherwise, it's okay. And for the same reasons on the hitters, I don't know how to do the pitchers either, because most of these players haven't faced the pitchers they're going against. So, yeah, it's probably a stay away for me in terms of fantasy. I'll just enjoy probably a good baseball game. So that's Game 6. Let's move to Game 7. Washington at L.A., the Angels. And you talk about players that haven't faced pitchers. This is one prime example. You always get this when you go into interleague series. I don't have a great feel on this game either. You got Josiah Gray for Washington, 3-2, 3.12 ERA. He's pitched very well so far. 31 strikeouts in 26 innings. He's averaging a bit more than 5 innings per start, but is pretty darn wild. 14 walks in those 26 innings. And then on the other side, Michael Lorenzen, the former Reds reliever, has gotten his chance to start here for LA, and he's done well. He's 3-1, 3.04 ERA, almost 6 innings per start. Now, the issue with Lorenzen, he's only got 14 strikeouts. He is not a strikeout pitcher at all. So you are banking on innings, you're banking on a low walk total and a low hit total. So far he has done that, but the Washington offense is pretty good. So for the same reason that I wasn't sure how to approach San Diego and Miami, I'm here with the Nationals and the Angels as well. Both of these guys represent a lot of potential value at 72 and 7,400. I just don't know how to approach this, considering Gray has never faced anybody on the Angels, and there is two players for Washington that has had a lot of exposure to Michael Lorenzen. So let me cover the Angels first, hitting-wise. And I've highlighted 2 lefty hitting players against the right-handed throwing Josiah Gray. I mentioned if you wanted to spin up for Manny Machado, good play as always. I am going to highlight the best player in baseball. No other words needed. And then Taylor Ward is somebody I was really, really high on last night. Had a very good game. Running it back, he's at 5,800 already now on DraftKings, almost up to Mike Trout level. It's understood why. Taylor Ward hitting 357. He's slugging 700 this year. 11 extra base hits, 6 homers, 16 walks to 18 strikeouts. The ratios, all of this is quite spectacular. Joe Madden has moved him to the leadoff spot in the Angels lineup. That lineup has taken off. A lot to like here with Taylor Ward and then Mike Trout. So 2 outfield hitters. I believe I said 2 left-handed hitting outfielders. That is clearly incorrect. Mike Trout does not hit left-handed. But Taylor Ward, no, neither of them are left-handed hitting. Both are right. Well, there you go. There's the prime analysis that you get from me. But everything else said applies. Taylor Ward, Mike Trout. Mike Trout, 15 extra base hits. Has not run a lot yet, but he's hitting 325, slugging 675. Taylor Ward hitting 357, 11 extra base hits, 16 walks to 18 strikeouts. If you're going to splurge on players, I would come up here against a Josiah Gray that it has pitched well, but has been wild. And I imagine there can be some traffic on the bases tonight for Mike Trout, for Taylor Ward, for Ohtani, and things like that. So let's come to the Washington side against Michael Lorenzen. Lorenzen, aforementioned former Cincinnati Reds reliever. Because of that, Josh Bell, formerly of the Pittsburgh Pirates, has a lot of exposure to Michael Lorenzen, and it's very good history as well. Apologies, I keep having to minimize and bring chat back up when I move to the spreadsheet. But Josh Bell in his career against Michael Lorenzen, 7 for 21, double and a homer. So a lot of them singles, but a lot of success. Hitting 344 this season, 3 homers, 7 doubles. The biggest thing is he's got more walks than strikeouts, and he leads this team in RBIs. Juan Soto just gets pitched around. There isn't a lot around Bell and Soto, and teams are taking their chance with Josh Bell, especially with Nelson Cruz's struggles. So I really like Josh Bell in this game for the Angels against Lorenzen. And then I mentioned a second player that has had a lot of success against Lorenzen. It's D. Strange Gordon. He is 5 for 10, all of them singles. And it's no guarantee that Gordon plays. He is fresh off the injury list. So if he is indeed in the lineup. Take a long look at Gordon if you're trying to save some money. All of that being predicated that Gordon hits left-handed against Lorenzen, and he's had a lot of success, albeit all in singles. But at the minimum, okay, I can take that chance on trying to get a hit or two. Maybe he runs a little bit, gets a stolen base. Willing to take that if you want to go bare bones for D. Strange Gordon. So there's a look at Washington and LA. If I had any gauge on the pitchers, this represents a whole lot of potential value. I just don't know how to gauge it, so I'm staying away from the pitchers. And if I'm going to splurge, it'll be on Trout and Ward. But I do like Josh Bell in this game. I really do. I like Josh Bell. If I'm looking for some first base output, I maybe don't have enough for a CJ Cron or a Paul Goldschmidt. Take a look at Josh Bell. And then the last game on the docket for this evening is Tampa Bay at Seattle. One of the games that I got extremely wrong yesterday. Let's see. There we go. I was about to go to the wrong ballpark again. Tampa Bay at Seattle. Very, very high on Drew Rasmussen tonight. His numbers against the Seattle hitters, as you can see, I've only highlighted one. His numbers against the Seattle hitters are spectacular. There is only one player that has a hit against him. I imagine you can guess who that is. He's got a fair amount of strikeouts against these Mariner hitters on the season. He is 2-1. Decent amount of strikeouts to the innings pitched, 21 strikeouts in 23 innings. But he's only given up 5 walks in those 23 innings. So it's a 4-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. That's spectacular. And he's given up 15 hits in 23 innings. So his whip's at .9. Very, very good. I don't see that changing in the negative tonight. Like I said, he has dominated the majority of these Seattle hitters. For Seattle hitting, Adam Frazier, 3 for 8. Career against Drew Rasmussen. It is he does have 1 double, and Frazier leads off for the Mariners. So you're getting the plate appearances. You've got former success against the pitcher. 8 extra base hits, 6 doubles, a triple, and a homer. Decent amount of walks. Frazier, if you're not high on Drew Rasmussen, or if you're not going to use Drew Rasmussen, Frazier's a pretty good mid-tier option at second base. I don't mind it at all, especially the fact that he hits leadoff for a team that generally scores some runs. I just don't think they will tonight. And then for Tampa Bay side, against Marco Gonzalez, the left-handed throwing starter for Seattle, you've got the typical high upside play with Mike Zunino, all predicated on the power. He's got 3 home runs this year, a whole lot of strikeouts. So it's quite boom or bust. He does have a double against Marco Gonzalez in 3 plate appearances, but you're going all or nothing here with Zunino. And then 2 other players for Tampa to take a look at: Randy Arozarena and Manuel Margot. Now, Arozarena is 0 for 1 in his career against Marco Gonzalez, but that doesn't tell the story. He has 4 plate appearances, which means he's gotten 3 walks. Those are points. They will add up. Now, Arozarena only hitting .231 this year, but 10 doubles. He does not have a homer yet, but 10 doubles. He's been driven in 12 times. Stolen bases, so if he gets on base, he's got the propensity to run. Arozarena could be pretty good value at $3,900 tonight. And then Manuel Margot, 1 for 4 in his career against Marco Gonzalez. It is a double, but he has been playing and hitting extremely well for Tampa Bay lately. .295 hitter, only 3 doubles and 1 homer. But he's gotten some steals. He's averaged 1.75 points per plate appearance. So at $2,900, it represents a lot of value there. So take a look at those 2 outfielders for Tampa Bay. That is going to do it for the review of the docket. So I'm going to come back to the homepage here. I'll hang out for a couple minutes if anybody has a question or wants to see something specific, hitting wise, ballpark wise, a split here and there, or if somebody wants to throw out some derby bets or whatnot. Do you even know what the Kentucky Derby is? Some people might not. So I'll hang out for a minute here. But just a quick recap. I'm probably locking Ketel Marte. His numbers against Kyle Freeland tonight, exceptional. I really like a lot of the Arizona hitters, so I'll be using as many of those as I can. I like Drew Rasmussen on the pitching side. You're not paying the premium price that you are for a Pablo Lopez, a Corbin Burns, and you're getting a whole lot of strikeout upside against a Seattle team that Drew Rasmussen has, I don't want to say dominated, but he has performed very well against in the past. A couple of catching values for you all highlighted. Carson Kelly, again from Arizona. Elias Diaz in that same game. I think that's probably going to be a high-scoring game. Some other players, Josh Bell, I'm really high on. And there are some cheap potential plays. I mentioned Hanser Alberto, if he is in the starting lineup for the Dodgers at 2,100. D. Strange Gordon at 2,000. Has a lot of success against Michael Lorenzen for the Angels. So